Alam mo, panahon ng kampanya yon, hindi siguro sanay itong mga na style ko sa kampanya. Pati yung bunganga ko ngayon. Nagyabang ako na pupunta ako sa Sprat Day. Magdalaga ako ng flag, sakay ako ng jet ski. Yung bravado ko, pure campaign joke. At kung naniniwala kayo sa kabila, pati na siguro si Carpio, pati I would say that you are really maghanap ka ng tao dito magpunta ng jet ski. Hindi ako mag-abot pa ng ilang oras, I would conk out in the middle of the sea. Ang sabi nila, ang waves, ano bang waves sa Tagalog? Yung alon pala dyan sa kasing laki ng dagat. Sabi ko, mahirap ito. Sabihin ko na lang balang araw sa pinipilingin nyo nga na inabot talaga ako ng takot. Wala ako magawa. Takot ako mamatay. Kung naniniwala kayo niyan, I really do not know if you harp on that. It's a pure... I was not taking lightly the sovereignty, but it's a pure joke actually. But just to emphasize na talaga, hinaloan ko lang ng biro. Ngayon kung if you swallow it, my God, hindi na ako mag-comment na, sino? Alam ba ninyo hindi ako marunong maglangoy?
President Duterte admits his 2016 statement that he would ride a jet ski to the West Philippine Sea was just a campaign joke. He adds that whoever believed that he would really do it is actually stupid. Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin insists the Aquino administration should be blamed for the West Philippine Sea fiasco for withdrawing our troops from the area. Amid rising tensions in the disputed waters, President Duterte says he asked for China's help for more COVID-19 vaccines. The Health Department claims the country's COVID-19 situation has dropped to low-risk category. But does this mean we're now ready for more relaxed quarantine protocols? And after 20 long years, the Philippines is making a comeback in the Olympic rowing stage. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know as you jumpstart your day. I'm Charles Lejano. We begin today's newscast with President Duterte saying that his promise to ride a jet ski to the Spratlys to plant the Philippine flag was nothing but a campaign joke, and that whoever believed he would do it is actually stupid. Recall that this bold statement was one of the most memorable campaign promises offered by then-Presidential Rodrigo Duterte. It was enough to convince millions of Filipinos that a Duterte-led administration would be assertive of the Philippines' claims to all disputed territories. After claiming that this campaign promise was nothing but a joke, Duterte said he had still planned on going through with it, even buying himself a second-hand jet ski. But the chief executive claims he found it logistically impossible, not to mention frightening, given his lack of aptitude in swimming.
When I was plotting, nagpa-plot ako kung saan ako magdaan. Nakita ko doon, ilan naman yung tangke ng jet ski. Kailangan ko ng gasolina, supply. Pagtingin ko, puro dagat. Wala man ako makitang gasoline station along the way. Sabi ko, mahirap ito. Dito tayo mamatay na walang kakwenta-kwenta. So, yan ang istorya.
As to the issue of Duterte backing out of his own challenge for a public debate, the president said it's not because he's afraid of retired SC Associate Justice Antonio Carpio.
It's not because I'm afraid of debates. Ilang debate na dinaanan ko nung eleksyon. Hindi ako takot sa iyo. Ang problema, hindi ko nga alam na hindi ka presidente. Alam mo, it is never wrong to say that I owe you a debt of gratitude. Totoo eh. binigyan tayo, tinanggap natin, ginamit natin. But it does not mean na tanggapin ko yung bakuna at tapos sabihin ko, kalimutan ko na yung claim dyan sa West Philippine Sea.
Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin joins Duterte in blaming the previous administration for supposedly failing to hold its ground in the West Philippine Sea. Locsin once again brought up the issue of Philippine troops pulling out in the middle of a standoff with Chinese forces, despite the U.S. swooping in to defuse tensions by telling both sides to withdraw their vessels. Locsin says the Philippines should have waited for Beijing to vacate the area first. He adds that the U.S. could have protected us better under the Mutual Defense Treaty had we stood our ground despite Beijing's advances.
The thing about the Mutual Defense Treaty is you have to be attacked. Nobody was attacked. We withdrew. I have talked to the Chinese, to Foreign Minister Wang Yi. They have no intention to do that. There's no obligation to defend the Philippines because it hasn't been attacked.
Meanwhile, Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Sal Panelo says there's no point in holding a debate over issues that have long been settled.
Inaamin ni ex-Justice Carpio na yung Scarborough Shoal ay kinuha ng China sa ilalim ng Administrasyong Aquino. Sinabi niya rin na isang teritoryo pa kinuha naman sa panahon ni Ramos, ni Presidente Ramos, at kinuha ng China. Doon naman sa tanong na hawak ba ng China yung buong West Philippine Sea, hindi naman dapat pagdebatin nyo sapagkat ang pinupunto nyo mulat sa pool ay yung Scarborough Shoal lamang.
Amid the controversies hounding the Philippines and China's relations in the West Philippine Sea, President Duterte admits that he sought Beijing's assistance for more COVID-19 vaccines. Duterte said he will not hesitate to use China's vaccines because of the ongoing global supply shortage, although he clarified that this does not mean that he's willing to let go of our territories for the coveted doses.
Tumawag ako kay President Xi Jinping. Sinabi ko kasi yung kasagsagana ng COVID, may kung yung walang dumating talaga, walang kap-kap si Secretary Galvez. Tumawag, sabi ko, si President, I would like to ask for your help. Until now, in the Philippines is really at a loss of how to get the vaccine. Sabi niya, it's okay. We will help you. Ganun lang. Hindi naman sinabi, kalimutan mo yung Scarborough, sir. Bibigyan kita.
Carlito Galvez Jr. says the government has already deployed more than 4 million vaccine doses all throughout the country. An additional 1.1 million doses of Pfizer vaccines are expected to arrive next month, along with 4.5 million from Sinovac. That's on top of 250,000 Moderna doses and another 1.3 million AstraZeneca shots ordered by the private sector. However, negotiations are still ongoing for the next batch of Sputnik V vaccines. And for now, Galvez says their main objective is to optimize time and minimize wastage during immunizations to give Filipinos a chance to experience a better Christmas this year.
With the output na ng ating mga deliveries, we are very confident na by June or July, we can have a target output na at least meron tayong 25 million na vaccine. Meron po tayong more or less 5 million naka-slack na nakita natin naka-dedicate yung 2 million for the second dose, while we have still a slack of more or less 3 million. If all the Filipinos will work together also, together with the private sector, with the LGU and the national government, we can win this fight.
Sinopharm's EUA application in the Philippines is personally being handled by the Health Department to fast-track negotiations between the government and China. This comes after the WHO gave the green light for the brand's emergency use listing application. Greg Gregorio with the details.
The World Health Organization has approved the emergency use of Sinopharm's COVID-19 vaccine. It's the first China-made shot to be included in the WHO's emergency use listing. Data show that a two-dose vaccine has 79% efficacy and is recommended to be used among those aged 18 to 59.
Kapag sinasabing nasa emergency use list ng WHO, ibig sabihin it went through a very rigorous regulatory process.
Here in the Philippines, Sinopharm has no EUA yet, but limited use is allowed under a compassionate special permit. Health Secretary Francisco Duque III now wants the Food and Drug Administration to expedite its emergency use approval of the China-made vaccine. The catch? It's not that state-run pharmaceutical firm, but our Department of Health that will do the legwork.
I have already instructed the Bureau of the Public Health Services Office of the DOH to file with FDA for issuance of an emergency use authorization.
Once the EUA is granted, the government will no longer need to return some 1,000 doses donated by the vaccine maker as ordered by President Duterte. Recall that no less than Duterte received backlash for taking Sinopharm's vaccine even without an EUA. The DOH says they are still working with the WHO and the Finance Department to complete the documents.
This is the pathway na tinitignan namin ngayon for Sinopharm. Baka pwedeng dito na lang kami dadaan, mas magiging mabilis ang proseso. But of course, as I've said, we still go through the usual regulatory process.
Meanwhile, the distribution of additional AstraZeneca shots that arrived over the weekend has started. Metro Manila, Central Luzon, and Calabarzon will receive the biggest allocation. More jabs from Sputnik V, AstraZeneca and COVAX facility are scheduled to arrive in the coming weeks. For News 5, Greg Gregorio, we are One News.
The health department claims that the country has finally dropped the low-risk category in terms of COVID-19 infections. This comes after the nation's two-week growth rate dropped to negative 22%, while the average daily attack rate per 100,000 people also declined to 6.85. However, Metro Manila remains under moderate risk, even as its growth rate dropped to negative 39%, with an ADAR of 19.02. Isolation bed utilization has also decreased to 43%, while about 61% of COVID beds are occupied. Despite these positive indications, Duque warns that the public should remain vigilant and observe health protocols at all times.
Bagamat gumaganda na ang ating lagay, hindi po tayo maaaring magiging mapagluwag, lalo na't meron tayong 10 rehiyon. Ito po yung regions 4B, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, BARM, and Caraga na may positibo ng 2-week growth rate. Ang ibig po sabihin nito ay bumibilis ang pagkalat ng COVID-19 infection sa mga naturang lugar. Habang bumubuti ang ating lagay, kinakailangan pa din po natin ang mahigpit na pagpapatupad ng lahat po ng ating mga protocols upang hindi tayo bumalik sa surge.
Meanwhile, Duterte emphasized that local executives should be responsible for enforcing health protocols in their area. This means that they are accountable for any quarantine violations committed by their constituents.
The municipal officials, the mayor, the barangay captain, and the teachers, lahat sila, all are persons in authority. Kaya ho binigay ang supervision sa pulis. Because ang pulis dyan sa munisipyo is the person in authority. Kaya ang barangay captain, you are called upon and will be held liable for the failure of implementing the law in your territory.
The 20-year Olympic drought for Philippine rowers has come to an end after Cris Nievarez successfully booked a trip to the Tokyo Summer Games. More details in this report from Gretchen Ho.
po, parang nag-flashback lahat ng mula nung nag-umpisa po ako sa rowing. Talagang lahat ng pinaghirapan ng rowing para maabot po yung Olympic ulit after 20 years po.
It's history in the making. After 20 long years, the country is now back on the Olympic rowing stage. And 21-year-old Cris Nievarez will be holding the bow for the country. He may have finished 9th overall in the qualifiers, but with his other competitors already having secured their Olympic slots, Cris moved up in the rankings, thus clinching an Olympic berth.
Na-imagine mo ba na maa-achieve mo to sa ganyang edad na 21 years old?
Hindi po, kasi ang ano po talaga ng rowing, yung karamihan po talaga 10 years bago ma-achieve yung ganun. Tapos ako na-achieve ko siya ng 5.5 years lang po.
Benji Tolentino, the last Filipino rower to reach the Olympics, says he couldn't be prouder of Cris's historic feat.
Tawag namin sa kanya Big Boy kasi siya yung sa pinakamaliit pero siya yung malaki yung puso. Umpisa pa lang to, marami pang susunod. Kaya advice ko sa kanya, i-enjoy niya.
After the team's quarantine, Cris will be back in training. Philippine rowing team's Uzbekistan coach Shukrat Ganiev will be returning to help Cris prepare.
Ngayon pa lang, Carlo, ay talagang pinakuha ko na yung ergometer sa lamin sa dam. Ayaw ko mabakante siya ng training. Expected namin na darating na rin si Coach Ganiev para matulungan na kami at matutukan itong si Cris Nievarez.
May panahon pa po mag-prepare para sa Olympics. Siguro yung klima kasi sa Japan medyo malamig, tapos yung dating ng hangin niya karamihan headwinds. Mas maganda po yun kasi na-experience ko na yung tubig. Ganun.
With the Olympic berth, Philippine rowing president Patrick Gregorio says the future of the sport is looking bright.
We're thankful to all the sponsors and we're so proud of Cris. You know, he comes from a humble family, very young man. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And once again, MVPSF, Philippine Sports Commission, POC, Maynila Then Smart. Maraming salamat po sa inyong paniniwala.
Cris is the 8th Pinoy athlete that has qualified for the 2021 Tokyo Olympics. He will be joining weightlifter Heidelin Diaz, pole vaulter EJ Obiena, gymnast Kaloy Yulo, and boxers Yumir Marshall, Irish Magno, Nesty Petesio, and Carlo Paalam. The Olympics qualification regatta will take place tomorrow until May 7. Gretchen Ho, we are One News.
And that's how the day is shaping up to be. Join us again later at 10 a.m. as we monitor the day's biggest stories from sunrise to sundown. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.